How do you have a disability? I've seen you do these things. I've seen you do these things better than most people. What are you talking about? How can you possibly be disabled? Content warning for extremely emotional content. I'm not going to go into graphic detail about anything, but yeah, it's distressing.
Here, what noise do potatoes make?
Hey, how's it going? My name is Cassandra and I am disabled. Normally my sort of tagline for the channel or the videos is that this is where I talk about my life experiences and lessons learned to try and help other people who might be in similar situations. And I haven't done that for what feels like a long time. I haven't recorded anything in a while. I haven't posted anything in a while. And it's because I'm not well. So I'm making this video because like I want to, keep being open and honest and talk about stuff that's real. I've mentioned before that a lot of the time the stuff you see on social media is like, the best of people and the best of their lives, the best of circumstances, whatever. And it's, not always very realistic. And I want to be able to talk openly about where I've been for the last couple of months, why I haven't been posting, and to be able to talk authentically about aspects of my life that are either very difficult for me or they're somehow difficult or challenging because of my disabilities. And by not just being just as open and direct about having those disabilities and being disabled, I feel like I'm hiding and playing a role and continuing to mask and do things that aren't good for me and make me more ill. So that's some of the reasons that I'm making this video. Is it's for myself to just to be open and feel more free about it, and to not give myself the restriction of what I feel I can and cannot talk about. There's always going to be things that I don't talk about because I choose not to, but I don't want to have to feel like I can't because people don't know certain things about me that I want to be able to talk about, and also I don't think that I can really help people to the extent that I want to be able to help people if I'm not open, if I don't, set an example and show people what a disabled person, especially, a mentally disabled person, what that actually looks like in reality. I want people to know about some of the mental health conditions and the disabilities that I have, to break down the stigma of what a mentally disabled person looks like, and also to make it easier for people who may also have some of these conditions to be able to get help in my videos, to see like, okay, we have like some of these same things, we share some of these same traits, maybe that will work for me as well, so that is why I'm making this video. As I say, I haven't recorded, edited, posted or done anything for my YouTube channels in a good while now. Quite a few people have been reaching out to me during that time with comments and questions. Thank you all so much for doing that. I'm sorry that I took so long to come back to you, but hopefully by the time you're seeing this video, hopefully I will have gotten back to everyone already. And if I haven't, if you're still waiting for a response from me, please nudge me in the video comments, or you can always reach out on my other platforms as well, on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook, which I always link to in the video descriptions. I've thought about doing this video for a good few months. I thought that it would be really liberating and a good step in my journey of really discovering, understanding and coming to terms with some of the mental health conditions that I have and about the fact that I'm disabled, but like it kept coming back in my mind of like the judgment and criticism and essentially the risk that I would be exposing myself to by doing so. You know, people who are just ignorant and just, you know, trolls, people who want to attack people who just, they don't have any understanding, they're not, they don't have any basis of knowledge to comment. And then also other people who also have, you know, mental health conditions or who are also disabled, potentially more so in different ways, because I don't want people to accuse me of like misappropriating some term or condition, or to accuse me, or you know, to expect me to like provide some sort of like proof or evidence, or like feel like I'm, you know, insulting them because they're really disabled and I'm not, and just like all this bullshit that is like not good and not cool. You know, I'm not any kind of doctor or scientist, so you know, as I say, I speak about my life and my experiences, and whenever I'm talking about these things, I'm always talking specifically about me and my circumstances. But it's the internet, and I know that a lot of people are very quick to take offence to things or to take things wrong or whatever. And I just thought, you know what, people are already to me anyway. Like, don't get me wrong, like no one's been shitty to me about my YouTube so far, but just in general in life, you know, if people want to be shitty, they're going to be shitty. And if I really want to talk about this and be open about this, then I think for me personally, where I'm at and what I want to do, I don't want to stop myself from doing what I want to do, sharing my experiences and speaking my truth, just for the fear of people being shitty. So who knows, maybe by the time I record and edit this, maybe I'll whiz out again and I won't post it, but I want to. Okay, so without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about 5 of the mental health conditions that I have. I may or may not have more, but there's 5 that I specifically want to talk about in this video. Again, just to give context to a lot of my experiences, other stuff that I want to talk about and make videos about. I'm not gonna like super go into detail about what all of these are in this video. If you want me to explain them individually, let me know in the comments below. But I'm just gonna give like a brief summary of what the conditions are and what they mean for me. So the first mental health condition that I have is major depressive disorder recurrent, also known as MDD, recurrent. What that basically means, I think most people are pretty aware of depression, which is a mood disorder, and they don't know if the specific, or I've read it, but I can't remember the specific criteria for a diagnosis for depression. But what's basically different about major depressive disorder and recurrent or persistent major depressive disorder is that I think normal occasions or bouts of depression or whatever is somewhere between like 6 months and 2 years. I feel like that's wrong, but what I'm getting at is like I don't want to say a phase because that sounds dismissive, but like regular normal depression is normally kind of like short to long term. It's very often caused by some sort of event, like there's something you can point to or whatever. And with what I have, recurrent major depressive disorder, it's basically saying that it's a long term thing, that it's chronic, that it's not due to one specific thing, that it's more complicated and that it's a wider issue. So whilst people who are not so much in the know might say super helpful things like, oh, just snap out of it, or just get over it, or like just go for a walk, or wait another month, it doesn't work like that. I've been depressed basically my whole life, and yeah, it's a real struggle. It makes everything hard. I said I wasn't going to go into too much detail, so let's go on to the next thing. The second mental health condition that I have and want to talk about in this video is CPTSD. So you may be familiar with the term or the condition PTSD. What is CPTSD? It stands for Complex Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder. And similar to the depression, the difference between PTSD and CPTSD is that typically, again, I'm not a doctor, typically PTSD is a trauma response to some sort of single or isolated or short-term specific event or trauma, whereas CPTSD, it is more complex, and it's usually a result of sustained, repeated, long-term trauma. So yeah, it encompasses everything about PTSD, and then it has some extra stuff added on as well. One of the things that really affects me and makes life very difficult is the hypervigilance element of things. Basically always feeling like you're in danger, always feeling like you're being attacked or going to be attacked, not feeling safe, and being like really sensitive to potential aggravators or red flags that are similar to or remind you of that trauma. And I've known for a long time that it affects me, but I didn't know until recently just how much it affects me. So that's yeah, it's very significant. The third mental health condition that I have is no surprise to people who are familiar with my channel. It's ADHD, which stands for Attention Deficit Hyperactive Disorder. A more accurate term would be attention dysregulation hyperactive disorder. Yeah, not going to go into super much detail, but things that like really affect me with ADHD. I also have the combined type of ADHD as well, so both the inattentive part and the hyperactive part. So with the inattentiveness, I really struggle with like working memory, organisation, other executive function. The hyperactivity for me is not physical hyperactivity, it's very much mental, it's very internalised, so it's not always obvious that the hyperactivity is there. And yeah, and very ironically, I'm sort of losing my trail of thought. I'm already forgetting what I was going to say, but yeah, it makes adulting extremely difficult. Yeah, that's all I'll say about that for now. I think, yeah, people watching my channel will be pretty familiar with that, and if not, yeah, you're going to get more videos about that anyway. But what I will just add right now is that ADHD is classed as a neurodevelopmental disorder. So it's not a behaviour disorder, it's neurological, it's to do with stuff in your brain. You're born with ADHD. I have a lot of people asking me questions because of like the jaw surgery journey that I'm going through. People are asking me if the palatal expansion that I've gone through is helping with my ADHD, and I want to clarify that like having jaw surgery or expanding your airway doesn't cure ADHD. You can't cure ADHD, but the reason why some people report improvement with ADHD-like symptoms with improved breathing is because there are a lot of conditions, either permanent or temporary, that can mimic the symptoms of ADHD or have overlap with the symptoms of ADHD. But if it's true ADHD, like breathing in oxygen, it's not going to help it. So yeah. ADHD can also be classed as a learning disability. I think it depends on the country or wherever, but yeah, it's a neurodevelopmental disorder. The fourth mental health condition that I have and want to talk about is autism, or ASD, which stands for Autism Spectrum Disorder. Some people in my life know about this, most people don't. This is the one that kind of made me initially want to make a video like this, and it's also the one that's made me the most hesitant because there's so much misinformation about autism, and there's actually a hell of a lot of gatekeeping of autism, both from people who have it and also people who don't have it, which really rubs me the wrong way. And there's also a lot of stigma and, dare I say, bullying around people who don't have a formal diagnosis. I've touched upon it in one or two of my ADHD videos, but getting formal diagnoses for any mental health condition is not easy. It's not a walk in the park. So it really bothers me that people not even just look down on self-diagnoses or, you know, are accusatory of people that reveal that they have certain conditions, but it's like this, again, this attacking nature, this like this expectation that you have the right to demand that someone prove these things to people. I just think that's really shitty. Why am I mentioning it? Why is it a thing for me? Because basically my psychiatrist has told me, yes, I have autism, yes, I am autistic, but she's just reluctant to officially diagnose me with autism at this stage because my depression is so bad. So it's kind of like, you know, I guess, you know, psychiatrists are subject to different, you know, regulations, authorities, audits or wherever. So I guess they just want to keep themselves safe in a way and make sure that they're not going to, you know, come in under any scrutiny for like handing out autism diagnoses, which I don't think is a thing, to be clear. But she made it very clear to me, like, yeah, for all intents and purposes, like, you've got it, like, research it like you've got it, come up with coping mechanisms like you've got it. So I'm almost officially diagnosed, but not quite. And the way that there's a lot of ways that autism or ASD affects me. Some of the major ways or more significant ways is socially. I have a lot of trouble making like real friends, forming close connections, and that might come as a surprise to people that know me or maybe have seen me around, you know, in online communities and conferences and stuff like that. To be clear, I'm not a shy person. It doesn't mean that I'm not confident or that I'm not capable. I am very good at meeting new people, going places by myself. I'm very good at making acquaintances. But in terms of actually having friends, it's always been very, very difficult for me. I don't have a lot of friends, and even fewer close friends that I can be really open with and rely on. And another way that autism really fucks me up is to do with like masking and compensating and basically trying to figure out what the rules are. Doing everything that I can to follow the rules, and then it still doesn't work out, and I feel doubly like shit because all of this is so hard for me, it's so difficult. I'm still not like getting like the social outcomes and connections that I want, and I feel like I'm not really being myself, you know. So as usual, this video is already super long, so I'm not going to go into more details about that, but it's super difficult, and I really feel like paired with the CPTSD as well, which just is like literally decades of conditioning and gaslighting and trying to figure out why things are happening to you, why people are doing certain things to you, and having them and other people and also yourself convince you that it's your fault, and trying to figure out what you're doing wrong. With the kicker, of course, being that you're not doing anything wrong. It's a mindfuck. It's such a mindfuck. And comorbidities, which basically means having multiple conditions at the same time, it makes life so much more difficult, and it's one thing that makes it even harder to diagnose conditions, because it's then, you know, you don't just have a condition in isolation, you have them together, and the symptoms, you know, kind of mess around with each other, and then it's really hard to treat. You know, I've had that from personal experience. People just only want to look at one thing at a time, but you can't do that because I'm a complete whole person. But yeah, anyway, that's really tough. And also kind of related to the autism as well is sensory processing disorder. That is like it can be a thing in its own right. Like you can have sensory processing disorder without being autistic, but it's also a very common set of symptoms for autistic people as well. So I personally don't count it as like being a separate diagnosis, but I definitely do have sensory processing issues to do with light, sound, smell, and I'm a very tactile person as well. And then the fifth mental health condition that I have is one that, apart from paid medical professionals, I think I've only ever told it to one person in my entire life, despite having had it since I was about 8 or 9. So this is a big deal for me. I have trichotillomania, which is a body picking repetitive disorder, or body picking repetitive behaviour. I think it's still officially classified as being under the OCDs and other related conditions, meaning obsessive compulsive disorder, except I don't really think it is, because with obsessive compulsive disorder, like there's like a ritualistic fear component to the compulsivity. It's like there's a lot of negative intrusive thoughts, and like the idea that doing like these routines or actions will somehow protect you from something bad, which is not the case for me or for a lot of people with trichotillomania. Some people also think that it's a self-harm behaviour, and others think that it's a tic. I think it's probably, for me, it's part self-harm, part habit, and part stimming behaviour. And people with ADHD and ASD very often seek stimulation, so it's like a number of things for me. I've done a lot of describing around it, but I haven't actually told you what it is. Trichotillomania is hair pulling. You pull out your own hair compulsively. There's a lot of shame and embarrassment around trichotillomania, especially when you start to get bald patches. And that shame, embarrassment, and fear of being judged and misunderstood is really the reason why I've kept it such a secret. I think for some people, they will have seen the signs and they will probably have picked up on the fact that there's something going on there, even if they don't know the term or the condition trichotillomania. But yeah, you pull out your own hair. For me, it's normally the hair on my scalp. And yeah, it can be really difficult for me when people say things like, oh, you know, and I was so stressed out, I was pulling my hair out. And they think that it's just a phrase. They think it's something that people just say, but they don't realise that people actually do that. It is a real stress and trauma response that I live with. Yeah, I guess that's all I have to say about that one for now. As I say, it's a big thing for me to talk about it. I recently read actually that it's more common than you might think, again because it's kind of something that's secretive, and according to the internet, some celebrities that also have trichotillomania include Megan Fox, Charlize Theron and Justin Timberlake, and that weirdly made me feel a little bit better. So I hope that by me also coming out and sharing these 5 mental health conditions that I have, that it's somehow helpful to other people as well. I hope that it's going to be liberating for me. It's certainly going to allow me to talk about things more casually and just, like make references to these conditions in some of my other videos. But yeah, you might be wondering, okay, these are just mental health conditions, why are you saying it's a disability? Like, how does that make you mentally disabled? It does. I struggle with basically everything in life. And obviously you have good days and bad days. But having so many conditions and having each of these conditions being so severe, it's a compound effect, and it can be quite hard to see past those things, to deal with them, again, to get proper treatment from them, and it stops you from being able to do normal things in life easily. So for me, I've always had to be extremely independent, just from necessity. I've always been very clever and intelligent. I didn't realise that before. I thought, people always told me when I was a child that I was very intelligent, but I thought that's just something that everyone says to all children. So, I'm a functioning, contributing member of society, I'm not an idiot, I'm not a horrible person, I'm not stupid, I'm not completely devoid of empathy. I'm actually overly empathetic, and it's one of my biggest weaknesses. But all of those things that I do, all of those things, again, to do with adulting and functioning in the world, they're extremely difficult for me, and they cost more energy for me. A lot of people are familiar with the concept or the analogy of spoons, having spoons, which is basically another way of saying how much mental energy, effort, work, whatever does it take to do something. So for example, you might say, oh, I would like to go to the shop, but I don't have the spoons for it. Or I need to call the doctor, but I don't have enough spoons for it. It's basically saying, that there's a certain bank of energy or spoons that you have, and each of these tasks that you have to do costs you spoons or money. So, when your bank of currency is running low and the cost to perform a task is high, it's hard to meet that demand, it's hard to do those things. And for people who don't have these mental health conditions and are not disabled, a lot of these everyday tasks are very, very cheap to perform. But for people like myself, they're incredibly expensive. And when your resources are already so drained, and the things that you need to do in everyday life are so expensive, it's a vicious cycle. You never have enough money, you never have enough resources. And I think a big part of the reason why things have gotten so bad for me, and why it's so important for me to accept the fact that I'm disabled and actually seek the help that I need and deserve, is because I've been doing everything by myself for my entire life, and it's so expensive. I'm essentially in debt now. I can't afford to keep doing things the way that I've been doing and living the way that I've been living, struggling on my own and not getting the support that I need, because it's killing me. I can't stress this to you enough, and I know a lot of people won't understand. when they see someone who's so independent and intelligent and capable. It's hard for people to understand and to accept. Like, how is that a disabled person? How do you have a disability? I've seen you do these things. I've seen you do these things better than most people. What are you talking about? How can you possibly be disabled? I can do them, but it costs me so much. And I'm mentally in so much debt. I'm drowning. And I need help. I need, like a bursary or grant of spoons. And I need, other people to, say, oh, well, it costs you 5 spoons to do that. It's only 1 spoon for me and I've got plenty. I'll do it. That's what I need to be able to start paying off this debt, to be able to start replenishing my resources and not just keep spending spoons and getting interest on top of the debt. And it's honestly one of the most mentally difficult things I've ever done as such an independent, capable person, to admit to myself, admit to other people, and come to terms with the fact that I have limitations and I need help, and that I need support from other people, and that I need to depend on other people who may not be there. Again, with the CPTSD and the things that I've learned through experience, it's extremely difficult to go through that journey. On top of like the physical health stuff I'm going through, it's very hard, but it's so important. They say the first step to solving a problem is realizing that you have one. And this is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to realize and accept that I have not just a problem, I've got multiple problems, which mean that I can't keep doing everything on my own. And that's what makes me disabled. As always, I intended for this to be a much shorter video. I knew that I would be emotional, but I didn't expect to be so emotional. So I apologise. Content warning for extremely emotional content. I'm not going to go into graphic detail about anything, or I didn't go into graphic detail about anything. But yeah, it's distressing. So I think it's time for me to end this video. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't show hate in the comments. I clearly can't f***ing handle it. But yeah, share your thoughts. Let me know what you think about this, especially if you or someone you know or care about is also struggling with mental health stuff, disability, whatever. Yeah, let's try and support each other, even if it's just, morally and from afar. So anyway, yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later. Take care. Bye.